Then in Sports Central, we go for our next team prediction of this offseason, and it's going to be over the Houston Cougars, a team that went 8-5 overall in the 2022 season. Overall, a successful season for Houston. This was one of the top teams in the American, and they're headed to the Big 12 this season. First season in the Power 5 for Houston. How is this team going to be in 2023, and what can we expect out of Houston in the 2023 season? That's what we'll be talking about here today. We'll be analyzing this team and predict their schedule game by game in this video. Let's get started with a quick recap of 2022. Once again, the record being 8-5, and this team got off to a 2-3 start. It was a rough start to the season for this team, and I mean, you consider Texas Tech, Kansas, and Tulane the first three losses that this team took. All three losses looked terrible at the time. I mean, Texas Tech and Kansas both with very low expectations. Tulane coming off of an atrocious season in 2021, and turns out Tulane was a New Year's Six champion in 2022, beat USC in the Cotton Bowl. And even Texas Tech and Kansas, really teams that were considered bad at the time, turned out to be pretty good teams. So, I mean, you consider the win over UTSA in triple overtime, beating Rice by a touchdown. Kind of a tough start to the season and a lot of uncertainty heading into October, but things would improve from there. They beat Memphis on the road to start out October on a Friday night. They're on the road 33-32, beat Navy on the road 38-20, and also beat South Florida 42-27. Lost to SMU in a shootout 77-63. That one was a high-scoring game. Beat Temple and East Carolina. Lost to Tulsa to finish out the regular season. Then took on Louisiana in the Independence Bowl. Beat them 23-16. So a nice way to finish out the season there with a bowl win over Louisiana. So the final record 8-5. Not a bad season for this team. But with that, let's take a look into 2023 now with your roster preview. This team will look different in 2023. I mean, offensively, this team was really impressive at many points last season. Defensively, though, this team definitely struggled. I mean, you consider like allowing 48 points to Kansas, and really, I mean, from the start, this team allowing more than 30 points several weeks during the season. I mean, you consider the SMU game 77-63. Offensively, they could keep up. They scored 63 and still lost the game there. And I mean, down the stretch, scoring 40 on Temple, 40 on East Carolina. And the Independence Bowl was one of the lower scoring games of the season, actually, winning at 23-16. But I mean, all around, this will be a different team. Clayton Tune is gone. Dejon Henry's gone. Nathaniel Dell's gone. All three of them being key players from last season. Stacy Snead is coming back, the top in the backfield from last year with 600 yards. But obviously, your two main playmakers were Clayton Tune, who put up over 4,000 yards last year with 40 touchdowns, 10 picks, a 67% completion rate. Really talented player, and really he was impressive during his career with Houston. It wasn't just this season. I mean, even in 2021, he was excellent. So it's going to be tough losing him, and it's going to be different having a different quarterback and Donovan Smith in there, Texas Tech transfers. So we'll see what he can do. He wasn't overly impressive at Texas Tech, but a fresh start for him could definitely be a good thing. We'll see what happens there. The receiving core, Nathaniel Dell gone, Keshawn Carter gone. Matthew Golden's coming back. Same with Sam Brown, your third and fourth wideouts from last season. So, I mean, there's definitely a lot of key losses offensively for this team. It's going to look different, but at least you got a couple of players from last season coming back, and you're not losing everybody. You're losing one on the O-line as well, and defensively losing 3 on the D-line, 2 linebackers, and then 4 in the secondary. Not all those players are starters, but they at least had an impact, a significant impact on the team last season. So defensively going to look a lot different. This in general is just going to be a much different team in 2023, and I mean, can this team be a year one contender in the Big 12? It might be a challenge, I will say that. I just think that this maybe isn't quite as talented of a team in 2023. I mean, defensively, this team struggled. I don't know if you'll get much worse defensively, but the offense, I do think, will decline a bit. You consider the losses of those key players from last season, Nathaniel Dell, Clayton Tune, both being your most notable ones. It's going to be tough not having them around. They've really been significant for this team the past couple of seasons, and they contributed a lot to this team's success. So it's going to be tough losing them. And I mean, this team could be good in 2023. I don't see them being a Big 12 contender. but maybe that could come in the future, that's for sure. Transfer portal and recruiting now. Donovan Smith coming in from Texas Tech. Tony Mathis is coming in from West Virginia. Expect him to have an immediate impact. He's actually expected to be the lead running back for this team next year, so keep an eye on him. McCaskill, running back who didn't really play last year. He is off to Colorado, but he's had an impact in the past. Dari Halsey is coming in from New Mexico as safety, and you're also bringing in Isaiah Hamilton and Latrell McCutcheon from different places for the secondary. You lose Ronald Nunnery to Florida and DeMarcus Griffin to Louisiana Tech. So a couple of losses in the secondary, but also bringing in a couple of key players for sure. Recruiting-wise, 55th in the nation, 11th in the Big 12. Got 3 4-stars coming in, as well as 14 3-stars. I mean, it is towards the back of the Big 12, but it could be worse. I've got you guys at a 6 out of 10 on the future forecast meter. I do think the Big 12 is a wide open conference moving forward. I mean, Texas and Oklahoma both gone to the SEC after the season. And I mean, you consider how TCU came out of nowhere last season. I mean, TCU is a relatively new team to the Big 12 out of Texas, who went to the national championship last season. I think Houston, the opportunity is there. I mean, TCU is more known as probably a stronger football program right now, but I mean, Houston is absolutely in a position where they can get there. So I think the future is still good for this team, even though maybe in the immediate future, the next couple of seasons, this team will be rebuilding a bit. But with that, let's take a look at the schedule now. So you start the season against UTSA, and that's going to be a home matchup this season, then on to Rice. Then you got TCU at home to open up your Big 12 conference slate. TCU, speaking of which, a team that I do think maybe declines a bit, but they're still a team that was in the national championship last season. Then you got Sam Houston at home, Texas Tech on the road, West Virginia at home, then Texas at home. You got Kansas State on the road, Baylor on the road, and then Cincinnati, Oklahoma State, and then UCF on the road to finish out the regular season. So, I mean, you do play UCF, you're familiar with Cincinnati as well. BYU is the one other newcomer to the conference. You don't play them this season, but overall, I mean, you don't have to play Oklahoma. You do play Texas. You play Kansas State, 2 of the top teams in the conference. So overall, it's a challenging schedule, but it is manageable. But looking at September, UTSA, you beat them. You beat Rice as well. UTSA may be a closer one. Last year went into triple overtime against them, but I do think you beat them this season as well. TCU, I think you dropped that one. TCU next season still should be a solid team. So I do think they beat you there, but a close one. And then Sam Houston, you beat them. So you're 3-1 heading into the Texas Tech matchup, which Texas Tech game is definitely an interesting one. Donovan Smith going against his former team. I do think you dropped that one, though. Texas Tech is looking like, I mean, they're built to win right now. So I do think you dropped that one to them. West Virginia, a nice win there. Close one against them. And then Texas and Kansas State. I'd say 2 of the top 3 teams in the conference here. I do think you drop both these games. You're 4-4 heading into November. Texas is winnable. I mean, that'd be a huge opportunity there, taking on Texas at home. But I do think you dropped that one in the end. In Kansas State, I do think you dropped that one with it being on the road. So then you got Baylor on the road. I do think you dropped that one as well. Baylor should be a solid team. Cincinnati, this is a game that could absolutely go either way. I'm favoring Cincinnati here barely. I think this is probably the one loss where it could totally go either way. I mean, I really had a tough time with that one. So that one's 50-50. But Oklahoma State at home, I do think you beat them. So you get a nice win against Oklahoma State at home. And then UCF on the road, I've got you dropping that one as well. I think UCF is, I mean, probably a beatable team, but I do think you dropped that one. Honestly, UCF is probably the most built to win right now out of the 4 Big 12 newcomers. I've got UCF right around 7 or 8 wins this upcoming season, so I do see that being a challenging matchup, and I think you dropped that one in the end. So I've got 5-7 for Houston this season. Once again, I just don't know if the defense is going to get much better, and it was already a problem last season. Plus, I've got the offense declining a bit, losing your key playmakers from last season. So I've got 7-5 for the ceiling, 3-9 for the floor. I'm pretty comfortable saying this team will be between, say, 4 and 6 wins in 2023. So I do see this team declining a bit, but that doesn't mean the future is bad. I think in the future, once this team develops some of these players, and I do think this team is talented, we could see this team be a contender maybe in the future. I just don't think that's in 2023. But with that, that's going to wrap things up for today. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below on Houston, and I appreciate you guys all watching as always. Stay tuned for more from All Sports Central. Catch you on the next one.